Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of What's Brewing with Mobile Cup of Joe. Hey, I am your bearded barista, and I'm so happy and so glad that you decided to join us this week. We had a great time last week. We did the Halloween show. Everybody dressed up, and we dressed out in costumes, and we had a blast. And so thanks for joining us then. We're back at our regular time this week, 9 p.m. Eastern, for What's Brewing. And so we've got a lot of stuff to go over. You may be noticing, again, we're missing Chuck Haynes. Chuck, we miss you. But he'll hopefully we'll drag him back into this hangout next week. But let's go ahead and introduce you to the Brew Crew. I'll start from my left to right as usual. I'll start with back from the dead, Fred. Fred, how are you? Everybody say hey, Fred, and Fred say hey.
Great. Howdy, folks.
Hey, Fred. Running right down the line, we've got Mobile Cup of Joe. He's our host actually here. He's the one that runs this channel and everything. So hey, Joe, how are you? And everybody say hey.
Hey, everybody.
Excellent. And up next, oh, Tony, you've taken your sexy glasses off. We'll get to that in a minute. Maybe he'll share a little bit of that. But anyway, Spec Sheet Tony, how are you? Everybody say hey, Tony, and Tony say hey.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, Tony.
We'll go over all those in just a bit. I will say I'm interested to see what you have to say about those spectacles you got there. If it's Spec Sheet Spectacles, maybe we'll go with it. And also, we've got our special guest this week, Mr. Ben Schoon. And everybody say hey, Ben, and Ben say hey.
How's it going?
Hey,
Good. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you that are watching live. Just a few reminders before we get started with everything. The Q&A is live, so go ahead and if you've got questions for any of the Brew Crew or Ben, go ahead and hit it in the Q&A. You can also hit us on the socials, hashtag MCOJBrew, and we'll keep an eye on that. That's Twitter, MySpace, Instagram, Google+, Facebook, Snapchat, I think. Anyway, all of those. But go ahead and hashtag MCOJBrew. We'll try to answer any questions that you've got. Also in the Q&A and also on the event page on Google+, and in the YouTubes. You can hit it on the comment there. So we're all over the place. Hit us a question or comment if you got something to say about the show or something to ask the Brew Crew or Ben, and we'll try to answer that here on the show. But thank you so much for tuning in live. If you're catching this later, thank you for watching us later, and also thanks for listening on the podcast. Pretty much if you want to hear or see us, you have options, and we are available. So thank you so much for tuning in and making us part of your life. We enjoy this every week, and we hope that you guys do too. But let's go ahead and kick right off into it. We got a few topics to go over. The Amazon Echo, one of my favorite announcements for the week. LG G-Watch R was released and shows up in the Play Store. OnePlus sales and a new rendition of the Moto 360, and a whole bunch of other stuff to go over tonight. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of Joe, and I haven't learned it yet. I'm trying, Joe. I'm trying to do it. Tony, hit it for me. You know that, how to say it.
All right, sorry. You put on the spot here. How do I start, Joe? What's the first word I'm looking for? Oh, yes. But before we start, I got it. But before we start, why don't you grab your coffee cup, fill it up, bring it over, sit on down, take a swig from your Mobile Cup of Joe.
Nailed
I've got
it.
mine, and I hope
Nice.
you too. So let's go ahead and kick off. Let's do some freshly brewed news. Fred, what's going on?
All right. Well, Alvie brought it up first, and kind of a new and different item in the emerging in the tech world. Hasn't been seen yet, but it's being talked about and it's being advertised. It's called Amazon Echo. And what is Amazon Echo? It is well, it's a speaker. Maybe it's a smart speaker. Maybe it's a speaker with some artificial intelligence to it. We don't know too much about it yet, other than some information that Amazon has put out and a video that shows what it can do. It's a cylindrical speaker. I don't know if we can get a picture of that into the showcase or put the URL in there. But this is a cylindrical, kind of neat-looking speaker. It's got a metallic grill to it and looks kind of nice. And they're promoting it as something that's an information hub. You can get news, weather, music, and so on. It has voice activation, voice commands, voice recognition. And it's always connected to the cloud, so it not only can serve up information to you, it can basically look up information for you. You can hit it with voice commands. It can call weather for you. It can basically search the web and come back with information. And the neat little video that they shows it working very, very smoothly with very efficient voice recognition. Of course, we don't know if that's real or not when we see it, or whether this is just a simulation. They haven't given us too much more about it that I have seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I haven't seen anything about the specs for the brains of this beast. It does look like it's a standalone unit, although it is Bluetooth enabled, so you'll be able to connect it to Bluetooth devices to play your own music or sound files on it. But it does look like it's got its own brain and its own internet connection of some kind that is doing this work. And we don't even know what the specs on the speakers are, other than it's got a woofer and a tweeter, and it looks like it's real nice. It does show that it's using what they call far-field voice recognition with 7 small microphones tucked in under what kind of looks like the lid of this thing, and presumably these enable it to pick up sound from all over the room. You don't have to be in front of it. You don't have to shout at it, as long as you issue the command, and like on some other quote intelligent devices, it's got a name. It's called Alexa. If you call it and wake it up, presumably it can hear it from anywhere in the room and get your information for you. So interesting looking device. It appears that it's getting its information from the Amazon cloud, and certainly that could be something of a setback. It's not connecting to Google services and so on. It does presumably interface with your Amazon Fire OS devices for those people who have a Fire OS device. And there wasn't anything said about compatibility with any other devices. So it's certainly early stages. We don't know too much about it. I don't think anybody has seen a prototype. What do you guys think about this?
I just want to piggyback real quick on the compatibility thing. If you go on Amazon's site, they do say that the Echo application does work for both the Fire tablets and the Fire phone, but they also have Android compatible on there too. So they didn't say what version of Android, but there is an app that they're going to make for the Android to be compatible with the Echo. Me personally, though, I know Tony, we didn't agree too much on this, but I'm really excited for this because although there's one of the setbacks that it's not Google's cloud in their database, because as we all come to know, the Google and OK Google voice command has pretty much become the top thing when it comes to using voice controls, and that Droid Turbo is going off back there because I said that. So for $99, if you're a Prime subscriber, $199 for non-Prime subscribers, I would have a hard time swallowing that price tag. But I mean, for $100, I'm a Prime subscriber, and I know this is really who Amazon is marketing this towards, because this is really just gonna be a moneymaker for them. If you say Alexa and then add so-and-so to my shopping cart, which is something they showed in the demo video for it. And there's a lot of potential to it, and I am really interested to see how Amazon's own cloud technology does work. I know I submitted an invite for the Echo because as it stands right now, Amazon has taken the OnePlus approach where you do need an invite to buy the product, but let's fingers crossed they handle it better than OnePlus has been handling it. So personally, I'm looking forward to it. There's still a lot of things we don't know about the device, but the way Amazon demoed it in the video, yes, it's a promo video and it's not going to work exactly like they show it, but just having a speaker like that, if it can reach your voice in a couple rooms, having just kind of a little assistant in the house, I think that could be something that really we could see getting useful, and something that having it we might not have realized it's something we did want. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's cool, but I don't think it's anything better than just leaving OK Google on my phone, in my pocket. I'll just carry my phone around, because you can do OK Google from the lock screen, especially on the Motorola stuff that's kind of active listening and all that. OK Google, what's the weather going to be? Let's see, some of the other stuff. OK Google, set an alarm. OK Google, who's Abraham Lincoln? It's got some neat things. Play my dinner party playlist and all that. I think it's a released product way too soon. There's not enough in it for me to say, hey, I need a $200 Bluetooth speaker that doesn't have a battery on it. I've got to keep it plugged in. I'm completely unimpressed with it. But if somebody wanted to give me one, I would take it. But other than that, I want home automation I think, worse than just about anybody I know. But there's just no good way to do that, and this isn't it, in my opinion.
What I think about it, I think that we need to stop creating more things with brains. Like, stop putting a computer in everything and make everything Bluetooth compatible and make everything connect to your phone or your tablet or whatever or your PC, whatever centralized device you want your brains in. Like, if you don't carry a smartphone but you want your PC to do all that stuff, put all the brains in that unit and then make everything connect to that. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should be forced to use a certain kind of phone, or, I want it all to be compatible with iPhone and Android. I love that, Chromecast can be compatible with iPhone and Android, stuff like that. Like Chromecast, my big thing with people who want to buy a smart TV, don't ever spend money on a smart TV because you're paying almost double for what you need to for that TV in particular, and you can get the same or better with a $35 Chromecast or a $40 Roku stick. You can get better functionality than you would out of the smart TV. So for me, stop putting brains in devices and start giving us ways to connect our devices to a thing. So like connect your phone to whatever speaker system you have via a wire or Bluetooth, and then have the phone with you to control it so you don't even have to be in the same room to put the music on. Stuff like that. I hate the idea that we're making everything computerized when we already spend $600 to $1,000 on these phones. Now that's where they're getting, and these are the things we want all our media on. These are the things we want to be connected to all of our services, our streaming stuff, our music, our videos, and all that. And let us control everything with this.
Ben, what do you think? I know you got some comments on it. What do you think about? I
think I want it, but I don't really want to actually buy it. I want to give it a try. If they could do like a trial run with it, I think that'd be really cool, because then you get to see like if you like it, how it fits in your life. But
or at least
so far, I'm gonna hold off.
Like in-store demo, at least, kind of something to show it off.
Yeah. I think that would be nice. I think I found the funniest thing I heard someone say about it, though, was someone posted on Reddit. He said, "I wonder if they just stuck a Fire phone inside a speaker, and this is their master plan for liquidating the inventory of phones." Which that would be pretty funny. Being
that we're seeing no specs, there may be some truth to that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. Let me ask you guys a little off topic here. We talked. Yeah, well, back when I was unpopular that week, and I shared some opinions about Google and their direction that they were heading, just in general, Nexus program and all that kind of stuff. Chuck brought up, I wish he was here, I miss you, Chuck, but he brought up that there needs to be another service available, and not iPhone and not Android specifically, but maybe something like Amazon, just to give us some options and all that, because we've got the Amazon Echo and also the Amazon their Fire Stick that they're announcing, which, Tony, I agree, it ends up being a whole lot more brains, instead of something centralized. But I really think of all the people that pretty much right now, Amazon's got the best shot to push forward, outside of Samsung, but I don't know what their agreements are with Android and all that. But Amazon's pretty much our best push for something for competition, and really that's what makes us all win, is some competition. But I agree with you, Tony. Brains, but what if we got back to kind of like a central, a home computer? Really, you had one brain, one unit, and then it powers your Bluetooth speakers, it powers your Fire Sticks and Rokus and Chromecasts and all that kind of stuff. So everything's loaded there instead of using your phone, because not everybody can afford a $600 phone that can run all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Joe and you and Fred have both reviewed phones that couldn't probably run a home automation. But if we had some home brain that could tie into that, maybe Amazon's onto something, and we're just kind of too far ahead or too far behind one.
Right. Well, even if the Echo, I mean, if you think about it, the Echo is probably not going to be that big of a success for Amazon. It's kind of just like something they're testing. But then, like you were saying with the competition, I mean, you've got Amazon, they're making this in the Echo. So then, that's obviously got to have Microsoft, Apple, and Google, the other kind of three other big major players when we talk about mobile technology and stuff, thinking about, maybe we should make something like this, or maybe they already are working on something. So think about, even though this is probably not going to be that great of a phone, like Alvie said, we always, as a consumer, we want more competition in the market. So even if this thing does completely fail, I'm still going to have fun playing with it just because it's something new that's technology. But After this comes out, I will be really looking forward to see what we hear out of Apple or Google for maybe something more in regards to the whole home automation thing. Because I'm right there with you, Alvie. I'm waiting for the day when my whole entire home is just automated by everything. So it'll be interesting to see where the market goes after this Echo gets out into some hands of reviewers and consumers.
Yeah, I mean, and Amazon's got a good push going because they also released this week, and I may be stepping on you, Fred, as far as like freshly brewed news, but also they did unlimited photo storage, which convenient timing. A lot of people I know are running out of their what does Google give you? 15 gigs on photo upload storage. A lot of people I know, I've seen it posted a lot, are starting to get close or run out of storage, myself included, and I've been using full uploads as long as I've been doing them. Convenient timing to go ahead and roll out free unlimited storage for Prime subscribers. I don't know, maybe Amazon's on to something. Who knows?
Well, storage has gotten cheap, and between Google Drive, Apple's iCloud, even Microsoft has their OneDrive, although they've cut a new deal with Dropbox in the last week. There's a lot of storage out there, and it's apparent that it's not costing a lot for the providers to give storage space, but they want two things. They want everybody, number one, tied into their services, and I hate to say it, and everyone will deny it, but they want everybody's data located on their servers and searchable and accessed through their portals, even though they'll tell you that it's not true. We all know better. But I just want to come back before we move on. Tony and Alvie, you touched on something interesting, and Joe as well, that we don't need as many devices with as much of powerful brains, but in a way it's kind of a return to old technology of dumb terminals. And while the big advance of the last couple of decades is smaller, faster, easier, lighter weight processing so that we can have fast CPUs all over the place, and we can carry more information in our pocket now than used to sit in a wall of mainframes. In fact, we don't need all that processing power, and some of these things can just have a much smaller amount of resources and just tap into the main brain. But it seems to be something that's kind of coming and going in waves or cycles, and until we kind of get past this sort of exploratory evolutionary stage, it's not really clear where the brains are going to sit. Is it going to sit in a PC? Is it going to sit in some kind of central server device that we're not even accustomed to using in the house? Or are we going to carry it around and then activate devices wherever we go? It'll be interesting to see where that goes. But maybe we want to move on to some other stuff that's in the news. We've got some Android Wear coming up. LG G Watch R, which is essentially the round version of the LG G Watch, has shown up in the Play Store, and it's not a bad-looking device. It's kind of sleek-looking. The interfaces that at least we've got here to look at are nice, and it does have some brains to it. It does have a Snapdragon 400, which is quad-core. It's only 1.2 gigahertz, but still in all, it's a Snapdragon quad-core. It's got 4 gigs of storage. It's got 512 megabytes of RAM, 410 milliamp battery. We're not really sure until we see this how that battery life is going to go, but there's basically now another alternative for those of us who have gotten excited about round Android watches. And while that's going on the Moto side, Moto 360, there is a new gold version of the Moto 360 and some really nice looking metal bands, which look like some fine traditional watch band looking watches being released, about to be released for the Moto 360, as well as I just want to find this number again and make sure. No, I'm sorry, that was not the number of them, but there are also a number of new watch software faces for the watch available still from the mock-ups that we're looking at or the photos that we're looking at. It does still have that flat tire on the bottom of it. And I guess we're not really sure if that's going to exist on the LG round watch or not. It doesn't look like it's there in their promo photos, but it's also being all shown on a black background, so that may hide something there. So let me kick that around. What do you guys think about the R watch?
I was excited until the price was announced. It definitely is one of the best looking Android Wear watches, without a doubt. I mean, it's one of the first actual complete circular displays, which has its pros and has its cons, because as we've come to learn from Moto 360, despite what Google says, Android Wear really is meant for a square display with the Google Now cards and everything. And I really do like the analog style design that LG is really pushing with the G Watch R, but $300 is an awful lot of money to cough down, especially when the Asus ZenWatch is starting for $199. That's going to probably be my next smartwatch. I love the round display on the G Watch R, but I kind of am tending to favor the square display, and for $199 for a ZenWatch, it looks that good. And you've got the Moto 360, that's only $249, so $50 less than the G Watch R. It's probably still going to sell like crazy just because of how damn good it looks, but I don't think personally I would spend that much money. But with the Moto 360, though, those new straps, the new gold model they're releasing with all those new straps, it's actually an 18mm band. So they're actually kind of marketing this towards, the watch itself isn't any smaller, but you do have kind of a trimmer band on there. So maybe with this kind of new gold or champagne color, whatever they're going for, maybe they're trying to market this towards women now, because, I mean, it's no secret that smartwatches as they stand, aside from Apple making smaller watches, I mean, really all these smartwatches right now, they're big and chunky, and they only work on men's wrists as it stands right now. So if this can kind of help Motorola get into the female market with these trimmer watch bands, I really think that could be in itself a very awesome thing. And you can see right now Alvie's screen sharing it. That's going to be $329.99 for that gold edition watch, which is a lot to pay for a watch, and I was just complaining about the G Watch R. But there's no denying that is a very, very beautiful looking watch, and I think as we're starting to see more of these bands and different styles come out, we're really starting to see Android Wear and smartwatches in general become not so much of just a nerd thing, but more of a fashion statement, and actually slowly but surely starting to become more of a piece of jewelry than just a geeky tech toy.
Well, and you can't say any of the stuff is, you could say something's for nerds, but that just means we're early adopters. Early adopters are a better word for that, because computers used to be for nerds, and everybody has to use a computer almost every day now. Well, everybody with a phone uses a computer every day now. So it was. I think back in the day when you saw somebody with a Casio, classic calculator watch, you probably would have automatically thought they were a nerd. But now, no, it's not that way. And especially with Apple, like, I don't care for their design, but when Apple introduces something, it's now officially no longer just for nerds.
Absolutely. As bad as the Apple Watch looks, that's how it's going to go.
It's awful.
Well, and we got some news about the ZenWatch, which if you guys have been keeping up with me, I'm super excited about the ZenWatch. And I'll screen share it here in just a second. But that's the $200 Asus ZenWatch, and it's got a kind of rounded, beveled screen here to it. Anybody else got an idea? Ben, chime in if you've got anything on this too. The ZenWatch, anybody been keeping up with that?
Wasn't it just launched today?
No, the 9th.
Oh, the 9th. Okay, I've been out all day, so I wasn't looking at the notifications that much, but it looks interesting. I wish I had an Asus contact so I could get a review unit, but it looks nice.
Yeah, hang on, I'm pulling it up here so you guys can see it. And sorry if you're on the podcast, we'll share it in the notes too. But that's the ZenWatch, and this is just straight from Asus' site, so it's kind of PR shots kind of it.
I think I wish they would have gone with a more squared. Like, if they're going to do a square screen, they should have made it perfectly square instead of a rectangle. Just because that elongated thing looks like a mini iPhone on your wrist. I mean, I'm sure it'll look better on, but I've kind of resolved against a circular. If I ever end up buying a smartwatch, against a circular one, just because of the issues that Android Wear is facing with the circular watch faces. But you know, in general, that is the best. I think that is the best. Sorry, I think that is actually the best squared watch that we've seen. I think that is the best squared watch that we've seen in the and obviously these circular watch faces are having issues. So no, I'm not going to pay for something that's going to cut off my text in the corners. And obviously the G-Watch R is the main offender there. Although the Moto 360 I've heard does it as well, just not quite as bad. So they've got a long way to go on the Android Wear front, and I think that anybody who's held off because they haven't been impressed has done the right thing. Because I think I'm going to be waiting until there's at least like 3 gigs of RAM in one of them. And no, you know, I definitely think that I think I'll be waiting for, you know, the next generation or the generation after until they start actually doing something. You know, because I would have been, especially having had the Qualcomm talk, I would have been disappointed to go to an Android Wear device that just doesn't do much of anything. You know, I mean, it syncs with your Google services, but that's it. Whereas the talk, you know, you could actually start a conversation, send a text message, reply to a text message, make a phone call, you know, initiate a phone call without having to talk to it. So I think in general, I'll be waiting, and I think that other people who have been waiting are probably benefiting from the fact that they've held off for as long as they have.
So hey, before we move on to the next news story, we've got a question in the Q&A from Aaron Traffis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Aaron asks, if I were to kick my Gear Live to the curb, what's the next best Android Wear watch to buy next, G-Watch R or ZenWatch? So before we kick this around, I'm just going to say, since I do not have any Android Wear yet, you know, if you're going to kick it to the curb, kick it in my direction, Aaron, and I'll pick up the Gear Live, because I'm still waiting to get into the Wear world. But what do you guys think? Well, we haven't seen either yet, have we?
The thing I know about Aaron, just from having been on the Hangout, Aaron, is that he's a farmer. So I would actually encourage you to go towards the G-Watch R, because I think it looks more. Now you'd have to check reviews and stuff, but I think the G-Watch R looks more durable. It looks more like a sport watch. You could probably get it would look better with, like, if you just did a regular leather band or a regular, you know, more durable band like a nylon strap or something like that. I think it would hold up better. But again, I haven't actually gotten the chance to play with one, so I can't say for sure whether it'd be more durable. Can anybody give any? Ben, has anybody here actually held the G-Watch R in your hand?
I haven't seen it in person, but based on some of the reviews I've read, I know that the bezel is actually like raised up above the display, so it like protect. I know that would probably protect the display from being scratched. So I would agree with the durability.
Yeah, almost like a bumper case on a phone kind of.
But as a downside to that, I also heard that I know anyone who has a Wear device, when you put your palm over it, apparently it also creates like a suction.
Oh.
Which, yeah, that kind of stinks, but.
Yeah,
is that like a magnetic suction, or is there a ventilation that's doing something?
When you put your palm down on it, because the bezel is raised, there's like an air gap, so you create a suction.
Interesting.
I'm gonna try to get my hands on that though, but.
Yeah, and I think that just from looking at the ZenWatch, now, like I said, I mean, the ZenWatch could be really, really durable and feel, you know, a lot, I guess, more plastic than it looks, but the ZenWatch looks premium, looks high-end. It actually looks like the highest-end Android Wear watch out, just because of the materials that they used and the way they're marketing it. But the way that Motorola marketed the 360 when they first started their campaign with the beautiful, you know, metal band, which we still have yet to see. We have not seen the metal band that they originally advertised with the Moto 360. This new metal band is just regular lanky band. The one they originally advertised on the renders is nothing like the one that they have. So go back and look at that. But I think the Asus ZenWatch would probably be more for. It looks like a dress watch. So I wouldn't recommend it.
It has kind of an elegant, delicate look to it, but again, we're probably looking at mock-ups. So a couple more days, we should have some real devices kicking around to get some information from. So if we got time for a couple more news stories, our friends at OnePlus are in the news again in the last few days. Some sales data has been released, and I have to say I haven't been following the story that closely. I know we've got a couple of OnePlus One users here, Tony and Joe. But I'm a little surprised to see what the sales numbers are. Apparently, they have already sold 500,000, and they're pushing, although they don't know if they're going to make their goal, of selling 1 million units before the end of the year. And what I also did not realize, although I knew what was going on with the invites and the viral marketing and so on, is that they did all of this on an advertising budget of only $300. Which is pretty amazing, quite honestly. And that $300 was just spent on some experimental Facebook ads. So really, it was a word of mouth viral marketing campaign, and we've all got some thoughts about how they handled the invitations and the passing on of invitations and so on. But 500,000 handsets at $300 plus for a $300 advertising investment is pretty amazing. Yeah. In the world of marketing.
Yeah, and Carl Pi, I believe, or P, however you pronounce his name, one of the execs at OnePlus, he actually said that OnePlus are only making single-dollar amounts per phone they sell. And if they were spending their normal advertising budget on advertising like Samsung or any other company does, there's no way they'd be able to stay in operations. But when you're only spending $300 with your budget for advertising, that's really incredible. And one of the quotes I want to read real quick here from the article, Carl Pi or P, whatever, he said that normally when you launch a smartphone product, it gets really hot in the first month, and the second or third month, sales start to drop really fast. For OnePlus, when you look at our internal metrics, our sales just keep growing. Now, I can't officially comment on that since I don't know how the sales and stuff of OnePlus is working. Probably not that great, but I mean, we're in the tech community, and most average consumers, OnePlus isn't a brand they know about. But if you just go online, since OnePlus debuted the phone back in April 23rd or something, I mean, it has stayed in the news up until it's November 7th now. If you look at phones that were released back in that time frame, we completely forgot about them. I can't tell you 2 phones that were launched or announced back in that time frame. So it is really impressive on their end. They've been able to stay in the news for so long now. Some of the news hasn't been that great for them, but sales figures and stuff, selling 1 million phones in a couple months before the year is over, that's kind of a stretch, I'm guessing. But when you look at $300 a month and staying in the news for so many months, good or bad news, that's still really impressive on their end for not being a company for barely a year yet.
I think I've got 2 things to say about that. One, about their sales figures. They're not accurate to what would have sold if they had just opened the phone up for sale like any other normal company. Because if you're saying, hey, I'm going to sell 100,000 phones every month, but I'm only going to sell 100,000 to the 100,000 people I invite to sell them, to buy them rather. Then yeah, you're going to sell those 100,000 phones every month because people still want the phone, and no matter what anybody says, $350 for the tech that's in the OnePlus One is still an amazing deal. Even used at that price, it's an amazing deal. I mean, look at people. The Motorola fanboys are paying $500 for a phone with less tech in it, with less advanced equipment in it. So, and that's not to, they're all laughing at us right now because they're starting to get their Lollipop updates. But that's another story. But that's the thing. Like, I've got this amazing product, but I'm only going to sell 100,000 of them a month, and that's it, and it's going to be invite only, then yes, you're going to keep selling the exact same amount throughout. And the fact that they're appealing to, this is my second point, the fact that they're appealing to directly to people who work for tech blogs and people who do, want the highest end tech for the best price. They want the thing that everybody's talking about, which a phone that runs CyanogenMod natively is going to be. I mean, just having OnePlus in your title on a tech blog gets you clicks. It doesn't matter what the article's about. So something like that, yes, you're going to stay in the news. And the fact that you're still on invite system and you've only sold how many phones in the amount of time that you have versus someone like Samsung who, I'm sorry, they're blowing away those million figures in the first month. They don't have to, we're going to try to hit 1 million by the end of this year.
Yeah, sales numbers are always weird to me because I rarely see much like data to back it up. It's always like, here's all our stuff, here's what we've done, and like 6 months later they show like the data on it, and like it may or may not match. I don't know. I think you're right there, Tony. And you squeeze a little bit out at a time. Yeah, it's gonna last a little longer before you get to that number.
Well, and I don't know if anybody pays attention to Swapa's blog, but in our latest blog post, we do a monthly report showing what the top selling phones are, and this month, well, the OnePlus was in our top selling phones. And if you guys know what Swapa is, Swapa's used phones, so that means more people are getting rid of their OnePlus. So yeah, they may be. It may seem like they're selling like hotcakes for a company that size, but I know almost. I think we've had 100% turnover. I think there's probably 20 original members in my OnePlus One community, and everyone else who has moved on to a different phone. So it's not because it's not a good phone. It's because some people get mad about the company's tactics. Some people get mad about the company's customer service, and the yellow screen issue. And it's because that the people who are buying these are the type of people who want the next best thing every time it's available. So they're upgrading as soon as they have a chance. So if the OnePlus were to get out to real full market saturation where they're being sold, say, by AT&T and T-Mobile, which probably will never happen. But if they were, then it could be a very, very good thing for them, and they could sell very, very well. But we will never know because normal consumers just won't have the chance to buy the phone.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really not, at this point, their market anyway. Not saying that they couldn't, but they're not ready. There's no way they could handle it badly, arguably badly, poorly. They've handled this other stuff. I don't think they could handle it being in an AT&T and a Verizon store, and a lot of people trying to want it and then trying to do tech support and stuff on it.
Well, and they're not for that though. They're filling the gap that the cheap Nexus phone is leaving. That's what they're good for.
People did them the biggest favor by announcing that $9,000 Nexus 6 and just letting the OnePlus One run that. That's their niche now. They got it. All right, before I get Tony riled up, it's easy to get Tony going. So before I get into angry, let's go ahead and move on. Every week we do this. It's an espresso shot, we call it. It's a mini review that we'll do featured here on the Hangouts on Air. So Joe and Tony both have a little bit to share, and I may have a little something here too, a little bit about it. But go ahead, Joe. What's our espresso shot this week?
So this week's espresso shot is the Motorola DROID Turbo. This is the Verizon wireless exclusive that Chuck was so excited for when it was announced. And this is really the biggest smartphone that Verizon has had all year. And if you look at the spec sheet, this is really probably the most heavily spec'd phone we've seen in 2014. Specs-wise, we're looking at a 5.2-inch 2560 by 1440 Quad HD display with a capital Q, 2.7 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 805 processor, Adreno 420 GPU, and 3 gigs of RAM for Tony right there. So I haven't been able to really fully test out the battery life on the phone yet, which is one of the biggest aspects for it. You have a 3,900 milliamp hour battery unit in here, which if you've been following kind of the specs and battery levels for phones, that's a really big battery in here. Now, I'll let Tony talk more about the battery life since he's been able to test out the aspect of the phone a bit more, but kind of my first impressions of it, the display, I'm still not completely convinced by the whole 2K or Quad HD, whatever you want to call it, that whole fad that's going on right now. I mean, it looks good, and if I do put this thing next to my OnePlus One side by side, I mean, if I'm really looking for a difference, then I can see it. But if you're just holding it normally, I mean, you really can't pick out a difference between this and a 1080p display. And I actually noticed here on two, this is probably more due to the fact that it's using a Super AMOLED panel on here, but the yellow or the whites on the phone do look really yellow. I was looking at a Google Now next to my OnePlus One, and whites on here just show up as a very yellow tint to them, which does get kind of annoying. But going to those specifications, performance-wise, this is probably the fastest phone I have used in recent memory aside from the OnePlus One. That Snapdragon 805, although it might be kind of an incremental update to the Snapdragon 800 series, is a beast for gaming, multitasking. I mean, pretty much I have not been able to slow the phone down with whatever I threw at it. And that's really important. If you've got a flagship phone, we've talked about this multiple times here in the show. If you've got a flagship phone and it's got 2 gigs of RAM, or if it's got Snapdragon 800 and it's coming out now in 2014 and calling itself a flagship, it's really not super acceptable anymore. So this phone is kind of Tony-proof with a 805 and 3 gigs of RAM. So it's really pretty impressive. Nope, you got the screen there, but performance-wise, it's really impressive. And what I've seen so far with the camera, 21 megapixel sensor, Motorola has never been known to be that great with their camera technology. But from what I've seen so far, this is a very, very solid camera. So Tony, go ahead and talk about battery life here, since he's been able to test that out a bit more. But so far for me, I've really been enjoying the phone.
So before I get into battery life, I wanted Joe to hold. I'm sure everybody who's watching is probably wondering what's going on. Joe, hold the phone up and talk for a second. Hold the phone up to your camera.
Okay.
There you go. All right. Does everybody see? Here, let me see if I can put you up to everybody here.
The infrared ports.
Yeah. Okay. See. Yeah. The infrared ports down at the bottom. Turn the screen off and turn it back on again. So these aren't visible to the naked eye, but the infrared ports that are glowing down at the bottom are only visible on camera. You can only see those when you actually record the device on camera, because they're infrared, and you can't see that spectrum with your eyes. But I just thought that was so interesting that that's what's powering the active display on the Motorola devices. I thought that was a really neat thing, so I just wanted to mention that, because I accidentally figured it out the other day when I was actually making some videos about the phone. So I thought that was very, very cool. So my first thoughts on the DROID Turbo, it is an excellent phone. So I'll just start by saying that. It is probably, until the Nexus 6 comes out, it is probably going to be the best choice for anyone who wants a stock Android feel device, especially if you like Motorola's additions. This is my first experience with actual real active display. I've used the fake, the apps, and tested them out before, and ROMs that have it built in that it doesn't work exactly like Motorola designed it to. And I always thought it was neat, but I never cared about it enough to use it. Well, now that I have a device that uses it, I can actually honestly say it annoys me. I don't want my screen turning on every time I move or touch my phone, especially since I'm one of those dorks who puts my phone right next to my head when I'm laying in bed. So literally every time I move or my pillow moves, the screen pops up and turns on. I don't like that. But I've been using it. I've been trying to get used to the active display because I know it's a feature and people love it, and I want to test out all the features of the device. So the active display, for what it is, does work very well. I just don't care for it. I do like it is very fast. It puts the LG G3 to shame. The LG G3 with that 801 powering a Quad HD display, you can really tell why they should not have put a Quad HD on an 801, because the 805 is designed for it, and it works just as well, if not better, than a Nexus 5. It's very, very fast, very smooth, liquid feeling device. I think the screen looks great, but Joe makes a good point. You can't, at 5.2 inches, unless you have insanely good vision, the Quad HD display is indecipherable from a 1080p resolution display, because at that resolution, your eye can't determine individual pixels on a 1080p display at a 5.2 inch size screen. So it only makes sense that you won't be able to tell or appreciate if a display is higher resolution. But that's just how things are moving with flagship devices. So it has one, great. I would have personally, if they had put a 1080p display on this, then the device could actually live up to its name with the battery life, which is the next thing I'm going to talk about. Battery life on the phone is good. So I've made a lot of very inflammatory posts on Google+. I'm not saying the battery life on the phone is not good. Of course it's good. It's gigantic. In fact, Ben just pointed out it's the same size as let's see.
2012 Nexus 7.
There you go. So it's the same size as the Nexus 7 from 2012. So you've got a very, very large battery in it. But I have the OnePlus One and the Note 4 right now. The Note 4 is a 3220 milliamp hour battery. Now, when I started talking about the battery life I was getting from the DROID Turbo, people were saying that they were extremely scared about the kind of battery life they would see from a Nexus 6 because it's running a smaller battery and the same high-resolution display and the screen's bigger. That does make sense to be scared, but one, Lollipop improves battery life a lot, and two, somehow Samsung has done something where I get the exact same battery life on the Note 4 that I get on the Droid Turbo, and this has a 600 milliamp hour smaller battery. So I don't understand what Motorola did. It's almost like they said, well, we're not going to care to do any tweaks to push more battery life out of the phone because it's got such a big battery. But I'm seeing, 15 hours off the charger and 5 to 6 hours of screen on time before it dies. Now, 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, I can appreciate. Very few people, especially non-techies and non-phone guys like myself, are not going to be using their phone that much, probably, unless they work from their phone. But they make this claim that it can get 48 hours of battery life with it without a problem, and I have a problem with that because it's going to get 48 hours of battery life if most of that is standby time. If you're only using it to take a few calls during the day and maybe answer a few text messages, but you're never browsing the web, you're never downloading apps, streaming music, watching Netflix, or playing games. But if you do those things, on a regular basis on your phone, which is one of the first things I do because I'm going to use the phone the same way I would use my phone on a daily basis so I can give an accurate review. And the battery life, it doesn't compare with my OnePlus One, which has a much smaller battery, and it's exactly on par with the Note 4, which has, again, a Quad HD AMOLED display, same kind of display, even bigger though, half-inch bigger display, and a much smaller battery. How is it that we're getting the exact same battery life out of this device, which has a smaller battery, than we are out of what is basically the same device with, most would argue, better software, but a bigger battery and a smaller screen? So it should be drawing less on it. I don't know. I don't understand how that happened, but I'm not happy with the battery life for what the device is, because it's so centered around being a device with awesome battery life. But in general, yes, you're not going to be unhappy with the phone if you buy it, especially if you've never had a device like a Note or a OnePlus One, which already gets great battery life. If you're coming from something like a Nexus 5 or basically any other device, Galaxy S4, Galaxy S5, you will be happy with the battery life because it is going to be better than what you've seen before.
Yeah, like Tony said, from what I've seen from the phone so far, the battery life on it is really good. It's not really coming to the standards that Verizon is marketing it towards. And also with the turbo charger, I haven't seen that either. 8 hours of charge with 15 minutes on the charger. I haven't seen that at all. But one thing while you're talking, Tony, I was thinking about with the battery life, why the Note is getting about the same battery life as the Turbo, where there's that 600 milliamp hour difference in size. The Moto X from 2013 had pretty much all of the same software features that the Turbo has, but if you remember, instead of using kind of the general processor back then, Motorola crafted their own X8 computing system, which consisted of multiple cores, 2 of them specifically for the active display, or the touchless control, and the different Motorola Assist features on there, where the phone could detect if you were driving in a car to read out a text message or something. So I do realize that the Snapdragon 805 that the Turbo is running is much more capable than the flagship processor of 2013 when the X was released. But the X8 computing system was crafted around those software features, where with the 805, you're throwing software features on there that weren't necessarily designed for it. So I'm wondering if you took maybe the touchless control off, because with that, it's always listening for that voice command. So it's always got that going on the processor listening for it. You've got the active display, which the entire time I've been talking has been going off because I'm waving my hands around while I'm speaking, and the screen keeps popping up. Now, granted, it's a Super AMOLED display, and it's not using all the pixels on there, but that's still screen time that's popping up. So I'm wondering if maybe they just didn't optimize it completely with these software features for the 805, if maybe they kind of threw them together and didn't really put a whole lot of time optimizing them to really get out as much battery life as they could. So I'm going to probably maybe turn off those features and see if my battery life improves at all from what you got, to see if maybe it's a software feature that just wasn't crafted right, and they try to get this thing out as soon as possible without maybe putting all the time they should have, making sure everything's working together and you're getting out as much stamina from the battery as possible.
I think that's possible. I think that's likely. It's just how it seems. I don't see how it could possibly, lag behind what I've seen with smaller batteries so much, or what I've seen with something with comparable battery life but a much smaller battery in it. So Aaron just commented and said that I've given him hope for the battery expectations on the Nexus 6. And I truly believe that. I think that having Motorola and Google working directly together for the software is going to be a wonderful thing, because we've seen what Motorola can do with their software-hardware integration in the past. So having Google working with the people at Motorola to produce the next version of Android and for that hardware, I think we're going to see something really awesome. It is a Super AMOLED display, so it should keep it lower battery consumption. We've heard lots of great things. I'm sure if Chuck were here, he could list a couple of them about why Lollipop is going to be better for battery consumption. But in general, there's something wrong with the battery life on the Droid Turbo, and hopefully, when we get the integration of the touchless controls, whatever Lollipop's version of touchless controls are for the Nexus device, when we get those, they will be a little bit more battery efficient than what Motorola has designed for touchless controls.
Yeah, well, here's my thinking on that, and we'll move on here in just a second. And you guys are talking about, well, if we turn off certain features and if we disable this and that and the other, maybe we'll get better battery life. Yes, absolutely. You can turn off location services. You can also dim your screen. And there's a lot of things you can do to extend your battery life, and by all means do that. But I'm tired of doing that. I've been doing that since my Galaxy Nexus 3 years ago.
Same here.
As I had to turn all this off. If you're going to give me a phone that has all these cool features on it, I'm going to use the cool features. Now I'm with you, Tony. The active display is annoying. I wish there was something set that up. But either way, it's there, use it. So yeah, if you quit using your phone, you're going to get better battery life out of it. But that shouldn't be something, and especially with this phone that is touted for battery life, it should last a lot longer than what my Moto X is doing, which is I'm getting 4 to 5 hours as it is. So to get an extra hour or two out of it, I don't think I should have to go in and tweak settings and do all that stuff just to get my 48 hours of it. But that's my rant. You were pretty unpopular, so I don't want to take that from you tonight. But is there anything else you guys want your Droid Turbo before we move on?
I just want to say real quick, we had Aaron Travis comment on the Q&A real quick.
Yeah.
And he said, could the L update fix the battery issues on the Turbo? And yeah, it probably will, since Android Lollipop is bringing a lot of battery improvements to it. But we shouldn't need a software update to get the battery life that's being advertised right now. So yes, it's going to fix it, but we shouldn't have to be waiting for an update to get promised battery life that we should be getting right out of the box with the phone.
And as a side note to that, hold the phone up one more time, Joe. There's no matter whether the L update fixes it or not, you're always going to have the bad taste in your mouth of how the battery was on pre-L, because show us the buttons here. Motorola made the stupid decision to hard code these buttons on, which are from the prior versions of Android. So releasing the phone the same month as Android Lollipop is going to drop and gives us the Galaxy Nexus back home and multitasking button. I think that it was actually a friend of mine, John Weston. So if you listen to this, John, I'm giving you credit for this idea. He's the one. He told me at lunch the other day that the Turbo really left a bad taste in his mouth, because why would you release a phone that's going to be upgraded to Lollipop this month, and you've only released it with the old operating system because the new operating system wasn't released the week that you released the phone, and you've given it the old buttons. Give it the new buttons. Make it last. So it's almost like built-in obsolescence for this phone. I hope it's not an omen.
Motorola wouldn't do that, would they?
I have one question for you guys about the Turbo. How are the capacitive buttons? Do they get annoying at all? Because I find I'm using the Note 4 right now. The capacitive buttons annoy me to heck.
The thing on the Note 4, to me, the only thing that bothers me is because I'm switching between devices with capacitive buttons and this device with a home button, is I accidentally just touch the home button thinking it's going to activate it without pushing it in. But the capacitive buttons on the Turbo, at least in my experience, I think that they're so perfect for people who like capacitive buttons, because they actually function exactly the same way as the navigation bar would in Android. Meaning if you slide your finger up from the home button, it will pop up Google Now. I've never seen capacitive buttons do that. Yeah, watch this. Hold on, let me present it real quick. Joe is going to show us what I'm talking about here. So if you slide your finger up from the home button, it goes to Google Now. I've never seen them do that with a device with actual capacitive buttons. I've only seen that with a navigation bar. So
you actually just hold down on it too for a second. It'll pop up too. You don't have to swipe it up.
That's pretty cool.
But you don't have to hold down on it. You can just swipe right up and it goes to Google Now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm personally, I like capacitive buttons like that. It gives me more screen real estate. You guys know I like my 6.5 inch over here because it's more screen real estate. So yeah, to me they're okay, but yeah, like what you're talking about, Tony, if it's showing the old home and recents and all that stuff, yeah, already it's out of date. Go ahead and put them on there. We're going to learn how to use it anyway. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. We've been talking about that was more of a full-on macchiato.
Yeah.
Than an espresso, but it was okay. It was good. A lot of good stuff going on in there. So I'm excited to hear more about that. Something else I'm really excited to hear about. If we'll notice, Tony is wearing what I would say is the best-looking glasses he's worn all night. Tony, what are you wearing right now? And if you're listening on a podcast, I'm so sorry. I can't describe this to you. We'll post some screen. You need to see this. So it is. Words fail me. What is this, Tony?
What this is an Epson Moverio BT200. So if you're listening to the podcast, look that up on Google real quick. It's Epson, the people who make printers. Moverio is Moverio, and BT200 is the model number. What the best way to describe this is it's a virtual Android tablet, and it's kind of frustrating to interact with. Is when I would think if someone told me virtual Android tablet and they were glasses, I would want to be able to use maybe hope the camera would sense my gestures to interact with it, but it won't. You have this lovely attached brain here that actually has a touchpad on it, and it works just like a touchpad mouse on the screen. It's got a little camera over here. They say HD camera. It is not HD. But it has Android Ice Cream Sandwich 4.0.4 on a TI OMAP 4 processor, and I think 512 megs of RAM or a gig of RAM. And it looks like it is a virtual Android tablet. This big in my view. It's the same size as my 50-inch TV is from 12 feet away. So it's just a tablet that floats in your view. You can browse the web. You can play their little games. It even has a camera. I'll go ahead and let's see. Is the camera's going to turn on? It should pop a little light. There we go. So I'll go ahead and take a picture, and I'll share this on Google Plus after the show. But it's a very simple, low-spec Android tablet. And it would be the use cases that they give for it. I'm gonna take it off because it weighs like 8 ounces, and it really hurts the sides of my head when I'm not sitting back in a chair. The use cases they gave for this are something like a technician walking around a factory who needs to know how to fix the equipment, and they could look at the equipment and it would analyze the equipment with the camera, tell them what it is and how to fix the device that they're looking at. So it is not something that's going to be, that it's even going to be marketed towards people the way that Google Glass is. It's not something you would ever be wearing outside, just because, they weigh so much on your face that if you wore it outside, it's probably going to fall off your face at some point during the day. It's just not a very good weight for something like that to just wear any old place. And it's directly in your vision, so you can't really see. It blocks your peripheral vision. But it is a very interesting little device to test out. It's not going to be for everyone. It's $700. I think around $700. I'll get the exact price. But it is a very cool little thing to try out and mess with. And I've tried to sideload a couple apps to it unsuccessfully. So far I've gotten them installed, but they aren't actually working. I wanted to join the Hangout from that and show everybody what it looks like through the camera, but I was unable to do so. So that's my initial thoughts. I just got them yet, so I'll have a full review on Mobile Cup of Joe after a couple days.
Well, you know, and I was giving you a hard time about it. Honestly, for what they're designed for, they're kind of cool looking, and I can see them being useful. They've still got a ways to go, I think, based off of what I'm seeing and what you're saying. But you know, it's interesting and kind of cool to see people trying to help the workforce and help people out in the field do some stuff. I could see it if you could slim it down and get rid of some of the bulk and the controller and all that. Even like in the medical field, the emergency personnel, you got quick access to your physician's desk reference and things like that. So yeah, kind of cool. They're kind of goofy looking right now, but as is everything, the first rollout. Even Google Glass kind of looked kind of goofy at the first rollout. So I don't know. What do you guys think before we move on to our final thoughts?
I don't know. You're talking a big price difference with the starting $1,500 price point for Google Glass and the $700 that this is going for. But this is these are two very different products. They're both smart glasses, but they're incredibly different the way their software is handled. Tony's talking. You've got basically a full Android tablet there with a little trackpad thing. So functionality-wise, if you can sideload apps in that, you can technically probably get a bit more functionality out of that Epson thing. Where Google Glass, I was lucky enough to be able to test it out this time last year. Actually, a friend of mine sent it to me for about a week, and it's really awesome. But pretty much all it does, it's essentially Android Wear on your face. All it does, it brings you notifications from your phone. It has to be connected to your phone via a Bluetooth connection, and it's really going to depend on if we see smart glasses start to come out. If they start to become a big thing and a norm, like smartwatches are slowly starting to, if they're going to see different ones that are more like Google Glass where they're strictly just notifications, or if we're going to see things like this Epson thing where it's more of a product in itself. So you've got two very different products here, so it's kind of interesting to see how Google's handling the smart glasses thing and how Epson is handling it. Both of them look kind of doofusy looking. There's no way around that. But it's two very different markets these companies are going for, so it'll be kind of cool to see what type of software experience the consumers tend to prefer when we do finally see these things start to hit the market.
Yeah, and especially once they come down and get more affordable. You know, $1,500, even $700. That's way up there.
Yeah,
that's a huge commitment. So, yeah, you get them down to a couple $100 like what Android Wear is, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see where the market goes with it. I agree. But just, you know, with that being said, we are a little over on our time. If you didn't hear or see my clock, it took off. But I want to give everybody a chance to plug what's going on this week for them. So left to right, as usual, back from the dead, Fred. What's going on over there at Tech Dissected? And Fred, what's brewing?
Well, hey, long-awaited event coming up on next Tuesday, the 11th. It's CES Unveiled. This is a computer electronics show. It's being kind of billed as sort of a preview to the actual CES International, which I think is in January in Las Vegas. And I've already been contacted by a number of vendors that are going to be there who've got stuff they want to demo, including a smart cooking range, a smart luggage lock, and then some of the usual suspects like LG is going to be there. I'm assuming with some television or video technology. So this time next week I should have some interesting stories and hopefully a lot of goodies for you. Something that's just coming in together from actually somebody that I met at Interop is an Israeli company called CellRox, and they have designed a technology in which they use virtualization to put multiple users, essentially, but actually multiple personas running simultaneously on the same Android phone. I did see this demoed, and they're sending me out a review unit in the next few days, so that should be kind of interesting. It's not just different profiles, but actually simultaneous personas where at the touch of a button you could say switch from your work persona to your personal persona, or your personal persona to your secret hidden persona, and so on. So we'll hopefully have one of those things to play around with in the next week or so.
Cool. Fun stuff. And I like your secret hidden persona. Just snuck that in with that and just glazed over it. Mobile Cup of Joe, what's going on over there for you in the channel? What's brewing?
Well, I've still got, we talked about it for like half an hour, but I've still got the Motorola DROID Turbo. I'm actually going to Napanee, Indiana tomorrow, leaving with some family, going there to catch a play there. But always on the job, I'll be taking my camera and filming some B-roll of the DROID Turbo while we're down there. Then when I come back, I get to put all that together, record some voiceovers, and make that review come together. So pretty much going to be working on the review for this DROID Turbo, and then I don't think I have any other products coming in right now after the Turbo. So pretty much just this week working on the Turbo and that review up, and hopefully maybe Sunday afternoon or something I'll finally get the unboxing for the Turbo uploaded on the channel. So that's pretty much my week, just Turbo, and more Turbo.
Well, yeah, half the show and then half of next week. So no, that was good. Yeah, Spec Sheet Tony, what's going on for you this week? What's brewing?
Well, let's see. My wife is due on the 9th, so hopefully a baby will be coming this week.
All right.
Yeah, so I might not be here next week.
Now, are we going to do that as a live hangout on air?
Yes, we will. But it will, no. Hopefully I will have a baby this next week. If I'm able to join, I'm sure what's the word I'm thinking of? One requirement for me being able to do with this next week would be I take care of the baby while I'm doing it. So if I'm here, I may have another little co-host. I may have a little espresso shot of my own.
More importantly, Tony, do you have a cell phone or a device picked out for him yet?
No, but as soon as he's born and we get the name for sure settled on, we're thinking Liam. As soon as he's born and we get the name for sure settled on, I'm gonna go ahead and take out his Gmail account.
Nice.
Make sure his phone is 2 things around though.
A domain name for him.
Domain name. That's perfect. That actually could be really fun too for us.
Well, I mean, if you're still not quite set on a name, Alvie is a strong name. Hey, Ben, what's going on for you over there this week? What's brewing for you, bud?
Well, first of all, just apologize if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. But I feel like I've got like a half a dozen review units right now. But big things would be Note 4. I'm going to be working on that. The Nexus 9, which this thing is pretty awesome so far. And I feel like I've got like a half dozen videos to do with the Nexus player. So it's a busy week, but it'll be fun.
Now, real quick, do you have the bending problem on your Nexus 9 that I've seen?
Not quite as bad. It's like you can tell there's a little bit of give, but let me put it this way. I still feel this is the most premium Nexus device I've ever owned.
Okay, fair enough.
I would say it's the best one that I've felt since the Galaxy Nexus, which that's probably my favorite one.
It was a good phone. It really was. Other than battery, but as far battery
I just retired mine the other day. That remained my daily driver for a long time. Now I've had a lot of other phones to play with, but that's been my staple phone up until a week ago today.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you transitioned over to Magenta, right?
I did indeed, and it was a little bit of growing pains, but it's been going well. Their tech people have been extremely helpful, speak English well, and seem to actually care what you're telling them when you're on the phone, which I appreciate. They're not the quickest. Some of these calls have gone long. I've kind of settled in when I had some issues the other day to tweeting back and forth with T-Mobile's folks. Which actually worked kind of well. They gives me and gives them time to respond, try something out, and send an intelligent response back. So far it's a positive experience.
Yeah, that's good.
A heck of a lot cheaper of an experience than Big Red.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much. As far as me, what I got going on over here, this is my Moto X on Verizon. I love the back of this phone. That wood is fantastic, and it's a killer device. I really like it, really enjoy it. It's not without its faults, and I'm hoping to get my review of that up on the Mobile Cup of Joe channel within the week or so. So be looking for that as well. But that really just about does it for our show. I'm sorry that we went a little long, but I think it was really, really good, and I hope that you guys got some good information, and I know at least one of you got some good hope out of it from Tony. Tony bringing the hope this week. But Ben, I just wanted to say on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for chiming in where you did and how you did. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on board. So, Ben, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And on behalf of Fred, Joe, Tony, and myself, thank you everybody that's listening and watching this later in the week. Again, hashtag MCOJBrew if you've got any other questions for the Brew Crew or Ben or even Chuck. We miss him. Send him a little message on one of the socials and tell him that you miss him and he better get his butt back here next week. On behalf of everybody, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. We will be back next week at 9 p.m. hopefully with one little miniature espresso shot edition. Hopefully you can at least bring him, show him and then get off the hangout if you need to. But hopefully we'll see that. But that concludes our show for tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we will see you guys next week at 9 p.m. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Night.